Let me see what happens. Okay, Karen, you got it.
Okie dokie. Well,
Okay.
we are delighted this evening to have Siobhan Nicolaou with us. And we are just delighted to hear about her journey and to know how she became an Aber, but how her journey started, maybe from the very beginning. I know she's had a very, very interesting spiritual journeys thus far, and will have many more years of an amazing journey.
Yeah.
And so we're just very honored to have you with us, Siobhan. And please just tell us a little bit about your background and who you are, and then about your spiritual journey. And then, if you want to go into some individual topics like ghosts or something else that people might be interested in clarification,
Yes.
please feel free to do that. And then, folks, if you do want Siobhan to clarify something, or you have a question, just feel free to put your hand up like so, and she will see you and she can stop and have you ask your question or say your comment. So, without further ado, I
You.
give you Siobhan.
Thank you so much for having me here. It's so many wonderful faces and names that I finally get to interact with, over the screen, and the energy is wonderful. So thank you so much. Um, a little bit about me. Well, I'm a published author, and I've been a holistic life coach for many years. Um, but I kind of got into all of this in 1988 when I got my drastic wake up call at the time of the harmonic convergence. And so, for those of you who remember the flip of what happened in those times, it was pretty intense for a lot of us. Many of us, including Esther Hicks, our beloved Abraham Esther, woke up at that same time. We were all channeling them. That seemed to be the trend. We all woke up to our channeling gifts, and she was running around, and I was running around, and anyway, if you'd like to know the full story, you can purchase my book, The Absence of Evil: Love's Reclamation of the Soul. And then it'll give you from beginning to end. But long story short, 1988, I woke up on the wave of the harmonic convergence. So it was my whole life turned on a dime, absolutely, completely in a different direction. And it was as if the hand, of God came through the door and grabbed me and said, "We've got her." And they shut the door, and my life's never been the same. So it's been a time where life just became different. And I think we're on the precipice of that right now. Like, there's going to be veils dropping of denial in humans' eyes that they've never experienced before. You can have a rude awakening, or you can continue to evolve so it's not as big for you, which is what I prefer. But it was really a veil dropping experience. A lot of my denial broke at that time, and I'm just eternally grateful to the people who helped me at that time. The gal who I ended up working with was actually a channel. She was also an MA. She got her certification in clinical hypnotherapy. And so she asked me if I wanted to be part of that. That's why I became a channel. That's why I became a hypnotherapist, because it was profound in my own healing, but I trusted her. And so there's a lot of great people out there you can trust with these types of tools. So she was my first door in. And then I took her channeling classes, and this is very quick for me because it was time for me to just, so I ended up teaching channeling classes. And what set me on the path that I'm on currently was, in about 4 years later, about 1994, the collective, I was channeling Octobar from the Ashtar Command. They were telling me that they wanted me to realize that I was the information that I was seeking outside of myself. And I couldn't understand what they meant with my mind, but I felt it so deeply to my core that I could not ignore what they were saying. And so I was given a set of tools to use it's all going through this in my second book that I'm writing about the metaphysics and the physics and all the science and all this stuff around what is actually happening and why. But they gave me a new set of tools and encouraged me to use them, that enabled me to go deep into my emotional body and physical body to then bring to the surface the negative emotion, which is the source of all duality. It is why we are in a dualistic experience, and what keeps it in place is how we stay divided within ourselves. So channeling was a tool that was very useful in my own healing, but then they asked me to give it up. And so when I speak of stream of consciousness, it's coming from within the spirit that is within my soul and the light that I've reclaimed. It's not coming through me. It's literally coming from me. So it's a whole different thing. And that set me on a whole different journey to really not just know about love and talk about love, but to experience myself as the consciousness of love and live from the being of me rather than the doing of the being. You know, there's so many people that act love and do love and speak love, but they don't love themselves, which is the source of all true love, actually. So anyway, it set me on the path of wholeness, and that's what I've been doing ever since. So everything that I've arrived at in terms of the wisdom and the knowledge has come from the reclamation of the soul. So the soul is quite different than the spirit that gives it life. And people don't, they might understand that concept, but it's an experience that's worth going after. When you become more loving, you know, and there's these old sayings, right? You can't love anyone until you've loved yourself. Well, there's a whole lot of truth in that. And you get to experience that the more that you really reclaim the light of the soul. So the soul is what creates the conflict or the contrast, and the contrast is here to teach us. Just like, you know, Esther says, Abraham says, it's like the contrast serves, and it certainly does, because without it, we don't grow. But people think that contrast is there to fight against rather than to love themselves, to come to wholeness within the self. So they give up the fight, which is created externally by the conflict that is within or not within you. So if you're whole within yourself, there's nothing out here to fight against. You realize that higher consciousness, which is love, is the only thing that is going to solve any problem here on this divided, you know, reality, and that you just learn to come to love so you can help create a different experience. Now, a lot of people know these things to be true, and they agree with them to be true, and they even do meditate and everything else. But I find that when they're not in that state, they're different people completely. There's a lot of really high level beings out there doing beautiful work on the planet that are not whole enough within themselves to want to get next to out of their glowing robe. You know, I'm not into props. If Yeshua was in New York, he'd be wearing Armani. You know, I don't like to be out there kind of noticed for who I really am. I'm just guided to where I'm needed to go and do the work that I do, you know. And so as I've evolved, so has my teaching, and also the work and the tools that we, you know, they have to evolve with the times. That's why these things from 10,000 years ago can't really be applied in the same way. They're not applicable. So the piece of the puzzle that we have to offer, the evolution of human consciousness, is not just the evolution of human consciousness. We help people awaken to the fact and the experience that they are consciousness. So we help humans evolve into consciousness, not just help their consciousness evolve. Because again, the consciousness gets all in here in the mental and spiritual body, and then they don't reclaim the physical and emotional, which is what creates the division in this dimension. So that's what. So I set on this path, as you can tell, it's just the way it goes, and it's how I solve my own conflicts within. I'm very much grounded, and I'm very aware of how I feel, and how I feel is what enables me to heal. I'm very self-aware, which means I'm very aware of how it is. And if I have a problem with something, I know it isn't something out here that's creating the problem. I know it's something within me that requires the love and the tools that I have to transform it, so I can reclaim it as the light that I am, the love that I am. And it just, you know, yeah. So my family was a great reflection for that. I left home when I was 14. It's been a very interesting life, very, very interesting life. And there's a whole lot of, quote, battles, as people would call it, that I've been faced with within my own soul, and the reflections that were in the world to show me those parts of myself. And I have to say that the best thing about it is when you don't think much, you're going to be okay. If you don't think about what you see and you don't think about what you feel, then you stay in the wholeness, and your ability to love that part of you, even in that moment, is available. It can happen. But one of the main things we tell and we reiterate over and over and over in our meditations is don't think about what you see and don't think about what you feel. Because as soon as the mind gets involved, you're separate from the feeling, and you're thinking about how you feel, and then you're talking about how you feel, which is the story. And thank God we've evolved out of not having to remember a fucking thing, excuse my language. All we have to do is pay attention to how we feel. It doesn't matter why you feel. It's not what happened to you. It's how you felt about what happened to you. It's not what was said or what wasn't said. It was how you felt about what was or what wasn't said. So as long as you can stick to that, you can take everybody else out of the reflection who's simply who's simply showing you. You can and stop the blame and stop the finger pointing. And we look at these elections as huge examples of that. Here we go again. Not enough people have come to love. A lot of people talk about it, but not enough people do that within themselves. So we create even larger examples to push the button even harder to go, how are you going to do? You're going to come to love, or you're going to fight? You're going to create a cause. You're going to, you're going to go to resistance. Yeah, that's why on my website, and it's been there forever, the saying that I love the most from Einstein, and boy, there are many, is you can't solve a problem with the same consciousness that created it. And so when you go and talk to people, you go to their workshops and they are talking and talking and talking, they have a consciousness that goes with the voice that helps alter you to a different way within yourself, which is really powerful. How you can keep that lasting is up to you. Because once you're in that state, you have to know how to maintain that state within yourself to keep it, to have it become the experience in the framework of your own reality. So there's a lot of wonderful things. I think we are so incredibly blessed with every person who contributes in the way of light, be it through information or books or whatever. I've never read anybody's books. I don't read people's books. I was so much in my ego when I was channeling, for me personally, when they were telling me that I needed to find the answers within. I remember myself very distinctly being very defiant, going, oh, really? Okay. Well, I need to prove to myself that what you're telling me is true for me. And the only way you can do that is by doing the inner work to either arrive at that conclusion or find out that it doesn't work at all. And I did the work, and I had very little guidance. I had, external person telling me step by step by step, like I spoon feed my clients. It's crazy. I do let them have their own experience, but the only way they're going to have the experience, which I love what Abraham says, experience teaches, words don't teach. It's never been a truer statement said. And if you take it upon yourself to, if something resonates with you and you do it to the bone, you'll find out if it rings true for you. So that's what I ended up doing. But I remember hissing at the cassette recorder. You remember the little cassette boom boxes we had? That's where we were at back then. So I would put the little, and just go, because then it meant I had to get over everything I knew and become what I know, So it's a way to come into being that's quite a bit different from what most people experience here. And so that set me on my journey, so the early 90s. And then there were all these major reflections that I had that were really, really good to become whole with. Like Abraham says, right? You got to be at peace with on every subject. Well, that's what I found for me. It's like, all right, well, pick a subject, pick about how you feel about whatever you're observing, and we have the tools to show people how to transform it, not just know that they can do it. It's not just know that it's possible. It's really make it possible, really make it real for you. So that's it's like the flashpoint to reclaim soul. So it's absolutely possible to become that. And what we do in the process of that is that when we reclaim the negative emotion within the physical body, we actually reclaim the light within the body itself.
Oh.
And so we can
light bulb.
that's what we do. We reclaim whole of the self, not just know who we are and you know, agree with everybody and all that kind of thing. It's exhausting. In
This,
fact, in a perfect world, we don't even have to speak.
this is getting very good. Karen will tell you I put in snippets here and there. Stop being a problem solver. Become a solution allower.
Yeah. Well, you definitely have to not be in resistance for any of what we have to work, because the resistance is futile, and it just doesn't work. It doesn't work in the way of wholeness. It just doesn't. And you know, so many people that I work with, they have this misconception about what letting go means. Now, sometimes it does mean absolutely do nothing and let it in. Sometimes that's necessary, but it means to stop thinking. It just means to carry on. It's people go, oh, well, if I let go, it feels like it's just too, like, I'm like, yeah, but how much do you trust that? I mean, you have to learn to trust that nothingness. You've got to sometimes let yourself just say, screw it, and let go of the thought, or any kind of what could be or what has been. You just staying out of your mind. It's not doing anything unless that's what you're being guided to do. There's been plenty of times I've not done a damn thing, you know, and you just let it all in, whatever it is that's coming to you. But it really means to me not to think. That's the letting go part. And so I'm not into the mindfulness movement. I'm into the mindlessness movement.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I call it, mindlessness. I like the mindlessness of this work. And I know it's the only thing that, quote, saved me through all of what I've been through, because I didn't judge it, because I didn't think about what I was experiencing. So when you don't judge, your mind isn't involved. And when your mind isn't involved, you're not dividing. Your mind is what divides. And people believe, and this is also in my second book, this is coming up pretty quick here. Your heart is divided. People don't realize that your upper aura, this is your mental and spiritual body here, to about the solar plexus. And so people's heart is divided as well, in their way. They're, oh my God, what a cute little dog.
She likes to listen to these.
Hi, sweetheart. Oh,
Very spiritual.
I love little furries. So your heart is still divided until you make the heart whole. And so how we're taught love is anything but love. And so our perception of love is divided. So if we're raised in heavy religion, oftentimes it becomes a should or a have to, and it comes to helping somebody out. We do it from anything but a genuine expression of love that comes from our soul. You know, it comes from our heart. People don't think about, should I give or shouldn't I give? They either give or they don't give. And I learned out a lot, you know, when I was younger, because I had a sister who was a junkie and an alcoholic and all this stuff. And she was in a bad state. And she ended up taking her life one day. And but when I would see people in that way, you know, like leaving the courthouse after seeing her social worker or whatever, and the homeless people on the street, I would, you know, a voice literally told me, Siobhan, give them money or don't give them money, but don't judge them. Like, do it or don't. And there's nothing wrong with either decision. Just don't judge them. You know, and then many years later, the saying that comes to us, my spirit gives me many, many sayings, is love doesn't care, it just loves. Because love doesn't care. It's just a way of being. It doesn't have a reason to love. It just does. It just loves. Love doesn't do. It just is. So many people do loving things. Another one of our sayings is, those who love others are loving. Those who love themselves are whole. And so, you know, we got to watch for the division in the way we speak. And we're only served to hear ourselves so we can love ourselves more. As I'd say, when people face themselves, I'm like, if you face yourself with love, you're not going to have a problem looking at any shadow within your own soul, because there's no judgment in that. But when you face yourself with judgment, then you're going to run every time. Now we look at how we respond to things in the external world, and that gives us a really big indication of how able we are to come to love within ourselves. It's it's hard hitting when my ego's been beat up endless times, and it continues to reveal things. You can't see things until you can see things. And I ask, show me what I'm not seeing, hearing, and feeling, so, and I get it. And then I laugh at myself too. I'm like, oh my God. And sometimes it can be embarrassing.
I'm sure and Karen especially knows my ABC self-love game. I'm sure Siobhan, wonderful person that you are, Siobhan,
Thank
will entertain this.
Okay.
Let's go through this. Going A to Z, tell me one thing you look at yourself and you see you are. I will start. I am amazing.
Oh, okay. Cool. Who's the bee?
Oh, Karen, she's so blissful.
Okay, got that taken care of. Yeah. So, do you want everybody to play, Jonathan, or how?
Let's have fun with this. It's Abraham fun. Let's have fun with this. See, I am charismatic.
But shouldn't our guest finish first?
Siobhan.
Yes, I guess
Whatever you want. It just seems like it came
maybe
out
I'm
of nowhere.
darling. No, if I'm D, I'm darling.
You are. You
I
are.
would say delightful.
Yes.
Hi, Jerry. I'm sorry. Since everybody's talking, hi.
So anyway, I came into this by doing the work. It's like humans relate too often through pain and suffering. They relate to their reality through pain and suffering. So obviously they have to create more pain in order to grow because they don't get the clues early on. And so it's just really the greatest gift you can give yourself is the love that you are, and making that love conscious within you are the tools that we have in order to help you achieve that. When you make the fact that your consciousness conscious, then you can work with yourself as consciousness, not just know it. And so we're going to get on take, for instance, the vaccination. Now, I absolutely respect everybody's right to do whatever the hell they want, whether it's wear a fur coat or whether it's get a vaccination or not. I don't care. Your choice is your choice. I don't care. I want you to be who you are, and I'm to bless you in that choice. And so I never got a vaccine. And so in truth, right, when we look at that, the vaccine is as much consciousness as the virus, because they're both illusions. But I knew myself well enough to know that at that time, I knew I could make peace with a virus. I was convinced that if they stuck that stuff in my arm, I still have resistance around it, that it would literally kill me, because I couldn't sort it out, because I'm so incredibly sensitive that something changes in an environment or something. I'm always being affected by something. I'm a natural medium. I was born this way. I remember, I first saw my first spirit when I was 7, which means I was experiencing a hell of a lot before that. My emotional body was absolutely shredded as a young child in the trauma that I lived with. It was putting myself back together. I didn't realize the archaeologist that I wanted to be in 5th grade, right, was putting my own pieces back together of my soul, reclaiming the light of my soul. So, there's a lot of things about that. I don't care what people's choices are. I really respect them, but we've got to look at what we rub against and how that affects our experience, because it's the nature of energy to expand, not contract. And so anything we're contracting about, then we can pay attention to what that is and love ourselves more. So self-love is the most important thing that you can do for yourself, is to make that light within you conscious. So when I didn't get the vaccine, and I was happy with that, and I had a great COVID, by the way, I did get it at one point, and it was right after somebody in my midst got vaccinated, and I was near them, and I was really affected by that, and I felt it, actually. And then I got the virus. And so I laid in my bed for like 3 days. On the 4th day, it was like I rose again. But lying in bed, connecting to the consciousness that I've made conscious within me, of course, not really having to connect, disconnect. You literally become it instead of having to connect, disconnect, connect, disconnect. I crack up about meditation, how we've done it for so many years, instead of just staying in that state all the time. We have the ability to do that more often now. And so I laid there and I just ran, the light within me. I saw myself as the light I am, and I spoke to the consciousness, to my body from the consciousness that I am, and I told it could let go of the illusion of disease, and thank you for my perfect health and all these other things. And it works. It really works when you can bend reality from a state of consciousness. And the better we get at that, you don't have to be sick to have that experience. But that was just one of my most profound experiences, working with myself from consciousness. But we literally have been programmed, and we're in the process of reprogramming ourselves down to our molecular structure, down to the atoms in us. And we have a lot of power within that being that we are. And so we can't say enough. That's all I'm here to do. That's all I care about doing. And that's all I pretty much do.
If I can just interject for a moment, and this has been discussions within the group and everything. When it comes to going back to the COVID, the epidemic, we have often discussed it, and it has always been a case of how many collective desires was answered due to the epidemic. You agree, Karen?
Yep, I agree. So there's so many people asking to be who they are. There's so many people that want betterment. And Esther speaks about this, and Abraham, it's absolutely true. They're calling forth more wellness. And the only way they know how to get there, like I say, they identify the reality through pain and suffering, is if they get to the suffering state first, and then they let go and they let the healing happen. It's like they don't realize that, like we do, we work with that every day with each other and stuff like that, and keeping your state of mind and your body chemistry changes when that's all that, and coming from the heart and loving yourself, and really, a lot of people's prayers got answered during that time. A lot of people's, and they don't even know it. It's like we're all evolving and real fast now. And whether they know it or not, whether they ever know it or not, whether they like it or not, whether they want it or not, it's happening. So look out, because there'll probably be another one of those coming up pretty soon. I mean, it's like, holy cow. So everyone has to grow. And I just like to get the clues as quick as possible. So, it's that in the world, not of the world thing. I really like that.
Yeah, I get you, Siobhan. Appreciate the shit. Use my language, because you do not know where the shit will take you.
Correct.
Yeah.
And how many people look back in retrospect going, wow, now I see clearly? Because oftentimes we can't while we're in it, if we're in any kind of resistance to what's happening. It's like time to get quiet. For me, it was great because, gosh, things got quiet. I drove across the United States. It was fabulous. Gas was $2.15 a gallon, and and I know where all the churches went. It was so funny. I get to Indiana, and I'm staying at this place like Rose Hills, and I stayed at like Holiday Inn Expresses most of the way across. I stop at this place, and I tell the gal, I said, hey, is it possible I get a room where I can see my car? And because my car is a living being, I'm very connected to her. She's my pony, right? So she says, sure, but I just want to tell you that she says at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning, you're going to hear a bunch of singing. And because the church is going to be happening, and I'm like, great, good, far out, whatever, wake up to. Yeah, I'm up at 4 o'clock anyway. I didn't tell her that, but so I'm like, no problem. So I got in this room, and it was so great because they were not allowing churches to congregate. So what the churches were doing is they were renting the ballrooms of hotels and congregating there.
Oh.
And I thought that was amazing. I'm like, nothing's going to stop these people. And it was fabulous. Nobody's wearing a mask. Nobody's nothing. And it was just really something to witness. There were families, whole families with their children in the indoor pools, just having a good old time. Everybody else is required to wear a mask. We're lining up for these little boxes of, it's just a trip. But anyway, it was so interesting to, be in the quiet of it all. And when you're really quiet and you're just listening, which is the greatest thing you can give yourself now, other than making your consciousness conscious, learn to listen instead of ask. You're just in the flow of the information that's guiding like every step, and everything is really effortless. And it's important to be able to do that now. If you're not that good at listening, get better at listening. You'll be glad you did, because you don't listen to that voice. That voice saved your life. And
Siobhan,
yeah.
can I
Of course.
try to interject or interrupt here? I don't want to stop your flow, but just listening to you speak, a few things come up, and well, a few quotes. Let's come up with those first. I don't know if you've heard a quote from a guy called William Blake. He was a poet. He said, and I'm kind of paraphrasing here, a fool would become wise if he would persist in his folly. Now that's
yeah, that's evident.
Yeah, that's sort of you were talking before about people allowing people to follow their own path and let them do what they want to do, because we cannot choose to create in somebody else's own reality. They've got to create their own. And so that was one thing that came up when you were talking. The other thing, as you were talking, it seems like you've got a system or a way of just a second. Look, I'll leave you with that. I've got somebody calling me. I don't want to interrupt this.
Got it. No worries.
I'm not going to interject here because Brent, he is a very wise man. He may join us again, but sometimes in life, no matter who you interact with, you've just got to take the point of their journey, my journey. Yes, I've interacted with you, but your journey, your choice, my journey, my choice. I will leave it at that.
Can I say something?
Of course.
Please do, Joni.
I have to actually leave, and I just wanted to say that I identify very much with you, and it's funny because we have a lot in common. I was a medium and did similar things. I wanted to be an archaeologist and go to do all those things. I went to Egypt, all that. And I left home when I was 14. A similar thing, very interesting. My journey was very similar, but I have to go. And I just wanted to tell you, I appreciate you very much. And I'm so glad you got a chance, and I got a chance to talk to you even before we started taping. And it's wonderful what you're sharing. And I hope everybody is getting something good out of it, as I did. And it is nice to put the face to all the times I've seen you on, our site. And all of you have a good night. And we'll all meet up again somewhere.
Okay.
Namaste. Love you.
Love you, sweetie.
Love you, and I love myself.
Have a happy
And I'm
girl.
loved.
Bye-bye, sweetie.
And just for fun, everybody talking all archaeology and everything, I get that tune going off in my head. Da 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 da. I will leave it at that just for fun.
Okay.
Okay, Siobhan, just
So you
jump in again.
say,
Sorry.
I have a system, and
Yes.
you're talking about the tools that I use to transform the soul, correct?
Right. Yeah, because you were talking about consciousness and,
Yes.
bringing basically, oh, look, I'm going to paraphrase here again. You're saying bringing things into the light of consciousness, be increasing your awareness, um, not seeing the separation
Correct.
between things. And it's a little bit like, there's a quote apparently, and I'm going a lot of quotes here from Michelangelo or somebody like that. And he was
Love
saying, people said, oh, how do you create these marvelous sculptures? And he's saying, well, look, I see a block of stone and I just chip away
Through the
everything that's not
image.
needed,
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
so it's a kind of a similar sort of thing. It's in there. The experience is in there for us, the realization, the awareness, the enlightenment, or whatever you would like to call it. But we have to get rid of these layers of conditioning, social, programming and things like that. And so we can see it directly,
Well,
experience it in a direct way.
experience it directly,
I'm
yeah.
kind of like, I'm jumping ahead. Maybe that's what your system is, or not, or
Well,
something like that.
like we don't encourage when we work with people, especially in their intuitive development and they're younger, we absolutely encourage them not to read any more books. People don't realize books are there to open doors within your soul, not to be a crutch with which you get all of your words from. People listen to other people, and people, they don't come to this knowledge on their own. They come to it from external sources, and inside out is the way we are intended to live, and it's what we're going to be forced back into. When we have things happen in the world where our ability to communicate are not as available at times, and sometimes for long periods of times, who are you going to call? For heaven's sake, if you can't, it's so incredibly important to learn how to get connected to that which you are and learn how to access it when there's nothing else around. And some people just say, well, I can just wait because I know that, there are a lot of truths out there that people know, but there's a lot of transforming the conditioning, the duality between the awareness of that truth and the experience of that truth, to where that truth that you know and agree with actually becomes part of the framework of your reality. So it's like forgiveness, right? This drives me nuts. It's like, my mother, right? My greatest nemesis.
Oh,
All right. So in the early days of you got to forgive from a very Catholic perspective, you have to forgive that person. Well, when you begin your healing journey, you want to, because it's just going to feel better all the way around. But there's so much healing that has to happen between the awareness of what happened and the ability to forgive. People want to just jump steps. They just constantly want to jump steps. That's why they read other people's books. That's why they do everything and adapt the way they think and talk to other people. They just don't, it doesn't work that way. So analogy that I like to use, I don't know where I got it from, it's a million years ago. We're like cubes of ice, and everybody wants to be the steam, right? The steam of spirit. But nobody wants to go through the step of becoming whole within the self first. So the chunk of ice and the steam are two separate things, right? But when you turn to water first, it just evaporates. So the water is what kind of creates this oneness. It takes away the separation between steam and ice, and it just simply evaporates. And so one of the things we have is duality is the door, love is the key, and truth is the revelation. Or so you can say God is the revelation, because there are different levels that we experience within ourselves, and it's a dimensional difference in a lot of cases. And we won't get into that now because we don't want to give away everything in our book, but there are reasons why they are the way they are and how you access yourself as consciousness. Again, if you're channeling, you're typically bringing in higher consciousness to, it's so high of a vibration and so beautiful. You literally can only hold it in the body to about a V to your solar plexus, and then it pops back out. You literally have to reestablish yourself to settle it in, to speak from it, instead of just being that which you are, because you've transformed enough of yourself to speak from the being that is that higher level of consciousness. In other words, you've reclaimed yourself with love and made yourself whole. And from what gives that love within you life is then the spirit we're talking about. The spirit and the soul are two different things. And in truth, the spirit is actually the soul, but you're only going to know the soul is the soul unless you transform it to know the spirit that lives within it. So they're always going to be separate until you come together within yourself and experience yourself differently. So the experience of yourself as whole is much different than it is from a separate perspective. Much different. Yes.
Can I just interject for a second?
Yeah.
No matter your teachers, Seth, Abraham,
It's all good.
Shaw, I've just grabbed a few random from the ether. The time has come that you should listen to your own inner being.
Yep.
You know, there's many a time you will look at Abraham, Bashar, Seth, Neville Goddard, I'm just grabbing a few names there, and you will see contradictions, but you've just got to accept.
Yeah.
Contradictions, concepts. Thank you for listening.
And you know why that happens? Yes, Karen.
Oh, well, no, go ahead. And then I just have a question.
Okay.
Just go right ahead. I just have a
The reason
question.
that happens is because the entity that they are channeling has not lived on Earth before. So it is experiencing human through the human that is channeling it. So it can't relate to how to do anything from the inside out. It can give you the knowledge that it can happen, but it can't give you the tools to experience it. Unless you go and you experience their energy, which then can shift you. But how long is that? Do you have to keep going back in order to be aligned with that energy? Or can you become that energy within yourself? And so there's nothing wrong with anything. It's just what I have found through my many years, 35 years now of evolving at the rate that I have been through these different experiences. So they don't know. These entities need humans in order for it to evolve. In order for the consciousness of the entity to evolve. And so, but what's really beautiful is it's a reciprocity that's supposed to happen between the person who is the surrogate for the entity, right? So she is evolving. Esther is being given the opportunity to evolve through this highest aspects of the whole of who she is from this different place. And we are able to evolve through their teachings as well. So it's supposed to be something that the entity is here to help humans evolve out of their own limitation, which is beautiful. Sometimes it doesn't kind of go that way. Sometimes we have rogue entities, you know. Abraham is one of the most beautiful spirits because Esther is one of the most beautiful humans I think I've ever seen. I mean, her heart is pure. And it's really great. And sure, does she have her stuff? Hell yeah, she does. But, you can't align with, because we're all still here in form, right? Anybody who has form has stuff. It's just the way it is. It's just the way it is. But yeah, they don't, the entities catch up with information I have said many years ago, because it's now something they're catching on to because they've lived through the human enough to get what the trend is or what's going on. So the entity is adapting through a human, evolving through a human, and the humans are evolving through the entity. So it is supposed to be like that. It's really kind of neat. I'm so grateful for the invisibles that are my best friends, because I don't find humans to be too appealing in most cases. And my invisible friends, I can totally trust them and all of this. And my soul history puts me in a lot of different situations and things that I'm still learning to go through. So yeah, I trust my invisible friends. Karen, you had a question?
Yeah, thank you. So I guess piggybacking on what Brent had asked a little bit ago, I'm just wanting if you could clarify more about what your tools are. And I'm wondering, like, when you work with a person, say, to help them love themselves more, and you help them to bring the negative emotions into their consciousness. Now, is this work that we would consider similar to the shadow work that we have heard of, that people sometimes do.
What's interesting about this work that we do that's different from other people's is there's a lot of buzzwords like emotional energy or negative emotion and things like that. It's now the trend. People are now letting emotions come to light because they're figuring out how to deal with them. Now, you can't just imagine the shadow work and change the scenario and go, so it is. Doesn't work that way. There is a deeper level of this that gets you right into what it is. It's like there's a difference between feeling and emoting. And so we show people through a basic set of tools how to get into their feeling state and stay there instead of reacting to how they feel. And you know, there's a tools around grounding and a certain quality of light, and we train people how to get out of their head and how to stay, you know, out of it long enough to be able to transform what is there. So people call it shadow work. Sure. Oh, I've done shadow work for a million years. Well, my ego had a row too when I was being asked to change from this to this. And I'm like, yeah, well, I've done this for so long that what do you mean there's something more? It's like we never have the whole piece. Like another one of our sayings is when a master stops evolving, his mastery ceases. And that is true, because if I'm not continually evolving, then my freaking, you know, tools stay 10,000 years ago. Like, and they do not apply to the consciousness of today and how fast we're moving. It's outside in. Most everything we were taught backwards. Have you noticed? You know, we have to get this from the outside to be whole within ourselves. Well, sure, you can get a couple tools, but you'll only just know them to be accurate instead of experience yourself as whole. So, you know, doing the work is really the key. It really, really is the key. So, yeah, there's a lot of grounding. There's a lot of different techniques we give people to get out of their mind. We have them, you know, depending upon where they are. We also give people activations that are appropriate for their level of evolution, to help bump them and, you know, connect them to deeper levels and higher levels within themselves. You know, inner communication is really important, and it's really hard thing to break for some people who are used to reading books and, you know, studying and all of that. It's like there's nothing outside of you need to know. It really is you are the library. All you have to do is ask. I mean, is one of what we talk about in my first book too is like, as you've told yourself subconsciously to forget, you can now consciously tell yourself to remember. Because our mind is so powerful that it will shut down anything that it believes is going to harm us. So it believes its job is to protect us because it has in the way it keeps you living the way humans live. You know, how we measure success in the world, you know. And one of my favorite things that Abraham says is one of the biggest misconceptions is the more you do, the more you're worth. And it's so not true.
I'm getting so much from this.
I just, you know, there's some things that really stick with me, and it's absolutely true. It's, yeah. So, yeah, so it would depend upon the person. Everyone's individual and they're all at different levels. We love to be able to work with people for at least 3 months in a go, and they're consecutive weeks. And every week we tune in and make adjustments and give them tools and have them work with the tools and see where they're at in the next week. And things can go pretty well. When I trained myself how to make peace with the meditation and all of that, I would take one piece at a time. Because people look at the whole cake and they're like, oh, I want this whole thing. Yeah, I know it can be that way. And they want to take the whole cake and shove it in their face. And you know, it's like, imagine yourself doing that. Okay. Number one, you can't open your mouth wide enough. You're going to pack it full of stuff. You're not going to be able to chew. You certainly can't swallow. And if you do, you're going to get heartburn, indigestion. Nothing's going to assimilate. It's going to be a bad experience. You're going to turn on the cake. Right? You're going to go, that cake is not good because it gave me a bad experience. Well, no, it's maybe the way you were trying to eat it all at once that gave you the bad experience. So I trained myself to just focus on what I needed to do one step at a time. And I'm telling you, in anybody's process, no matter what you're doing, if you take it incrementally, you are going to get farther faster than you can imagine. Instead of just trying to do everything all at once and adapting everything, blah, blah, blah. You take one little slice of that cake and you just enjoy it thoroughly, and things are going to shift. And as soon as it shifts, you feel it. Then you move on to the next slice. And then you'll feel victorious all along your way. Yes, people don't give anything long enough to work. When they do, it's amazing. But it's not a whole lot of people that really, like this path, because it requires that they actually do the work instead of just know about it. So
I have often said that about law of attraction. We know all the tricks, as we say, but sometimes we just have to step back and allow.
There's no resistance when you're feeling victorious. And when there's no resistance when you're feeling victorious, more can help you along your way. You just get more insight. You get more ahas. You get more clarity. Yeah. So, like Abraham says, be easy about it. People just don't think it's fast enough. We live in a very fast way here in the US. As far as the passion that we feel about people really, how it would be them right now to really get with shifting their vibrational frequency, not in just half their body with it, but within the whole of who they are, is very important. I mean, you consider that when you're transforming the density of the physical and emotional bodies, which are, emotional energy is part of the physical experience. And that's why for so many thousands of years, they've said, well, the body doesn't matter. Well, the body is as much consciousness as everything else, but you're not going to experience the body as consciousness unless you make the consciousness that it is conscious. So yes, there is a specific, type of meditation. There is a specific quality of light. It begins to reawaken the voice of the soul. That's how it begins. That's the name of our first meditation tape. We, for this series we did many years ago. It's a very basic set of tools, reawakening the voice of the soul. And then what happens is you bring in this consciousness, this particular quality of light over and over and over, you begin to become aware of things because the shadow will feel safe enough to emerge. So all of a sudden somebody be going, oh my God, I'm just feeling like angry out of nowhere. And I'm like, yay, it's working. Because they're feeling the vibration of love, which is the only thing that is going to transform this negative emotion. And it's coming up to go, what else you got? And then there's this way we show you how to be with this consciousness that then can take care of that. But it is from a much more of a present, grounded, and feeling place than it is visual. And many practices take you in and show you this and that, and they don't take you deep enough to actually transform the energy. They're just saying, I saw it go and there it is. Or how about cutting a cord? That's ridiculous. You cannot separate yourself from that which you are. It's all comes from the same place. There's only one thing we experience. That's why ghosts are ridiculous. People don't see it now. They didn't know it. I've worked in some very hairy experiences. One of my expertise is to be able to deal with that extreme contrasting energy with what people call demons. And we help remove them, if you will, from someone's body. And we help them shift the energy. We do that with houses as well. And there's a whole way you have to be with that type of thing. Have you ever noticed how the crucifixes and the holy water don't work?
I know they don't, because
I know they don't either.
no, because where people are, and Abraham has said this, when it comes to demons, etc., so on and so forth, you create them yourselves.
That's true. That's absolutely true. And we've seen it over and over and over again. But people don't understand the science around that. And that's what we also go into in the second book. There is how that happens can happen to anybody, but it's typically based on the beliefs they have that they were indoctrinated with. How evil they're taught to see themselves, and and also you know, we talk a lot about past lives and different things. It's on my YouTube channel, but we go into in depth about those types of things. So
Mm.
these energies become larger through people. Their experience becomes larger because of the emotional energy that they're carrying. It does, you know, spirit attachments aren't a thing either.
Mm.
It's just all the ways we've separated it out to make sense of it, to think about it, to analyze it more. But when you really experience those things constantly, you see it for what it is.
Exactly.
Yep. And it all boils down to our own negative emotion, which is what, again, we're here to show people how to transform so they can take it back into the light. Believe me, if it wasn't light to begin with, and light is also part of duality, light is really an illusion as well, as much as darkness. And so when you take it down to the consciousness where it is nothingness, that's what we're going for here. And so you come to these different levels of wholeness and awareness based upon you know, the inner work that you do. So we have come to arrive at the truth of what we know from the inside out. And what we find is how we've come to these answers of this wisdom is on the other side of the work.
Mhm.
So most people figure it out. They're like, oh, no, and it's like, oh my God, I hate to think like that. I can't even be around people who talk like that. It's just, they want to figure everything out. I'm like, you know, no, just let it go. So all I've done is had to heal myself to come to what I experience, and the knowledge is on the other side of it. It's not before. People want to always think and then do, and it's like, no, that's backwards too. So inside out.
Don't you feel that anybody watching the replay of this has got so much from it?
I hope so. We hope they come and, you know, if they really want to know more, they can work with us a little to find out. We
Mm.
give people everything we've got because that's what we're here.
Mm. I've got nothing else to add at this point, Karen. You know me, I am Mr. Yakety, yakety, yakety. But from what Siobhan has given us as a group tonight, I cut it. We feel her alignment, and we have enjoyed this interaction immensely.
Oh, as I have with you too, all of you are just beautiful souls. Thank you so much for having me, Karen.
Thank you, my dear. And how about you, Diane? Do you have any questions or comments that you'd like to share?
Yes.
Well, it's quite interesting because Karen and I met years ago, and there's been quite a gap. And I just recently said, hey, I need to come and spend time with you guys again. She said, oh, and we have a special guest. And the beautiful synchronicity of it is that, Siobhan, you almost answered every question I had.
Yeah,
I'm a medium as well. I am a practicing, and it's getting better and more fine-tuned.
good.
I am training in energy medicine in Eden method to read people's energy and help them come more into light and love so that their bodies can heal themselves. And I'm starting a volunteer next week with a foundation here in BC called the Paul Sugar Foundation.
Wow, great.
Which is a treatment center for free services for anyone in palliative care or illnesses, and being
Fantastic.
able to
Thank you for that.
yeah, we haven't had a chance to catch up, but I've been doing the work. Which is
You
why
have to know what your head can give to others. I mean, it's just,
sitting just, and I guess the biggest thing that I've been hearing now over and over is sit in my power. And I keep going, okay, I don't know what that means, but I'll sit. I'll sit and I'll listen, and I'll sit and I'll listen. And so I resonated, and my heart just kept opening up, going, yes, 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 yes. This is all making sense. This is a beautiful way of reiterating what I was asking about, because I'm not asking so many questions anymore. I'm just sitting and listening.
Good.
So it was a beautiful, beautiful receiving. And I know I was yawning a lot, and I'm going, you guys are silly. So my spirit guides, the way they move energy through me is yawning if I'm sitting or I'm not moving.
Correct. Yep. It's through the breath.
Well, either that or they make me burp and fart, but who knows?
We'll give you
No,
this.
I get you.
A lot of people don't realize that, you know, when you're dealing with people, like we deal with all kinds of people in all kinds of severe ways and in not so severe ways, people who are here to evolve from the very bottom up or not. And we deal with younger kids who are dealing with anxiety.
Like my son.
Okay, so let me get, this is why they're telling me to give you this. All right, so anxiety is simply this. When you have a baby forming in your stomach, in your uterus, it is creating the vessel that the spirit will inhabit. Now, remember, I said earlier that that fetus, the physical body, is as much light as the spirit, that then he will breathe into it. But you'll never experience it that way unless you, of course, make it conscious. So there's a way. Some people are going to do it, most people aren't. When you gave birth to your child, it inhaled that spirit with the first breath it took. That's what happens. That's why they call it the breath of life. All right. So the spirit, the higher consciousness that we're all aspiring to, we inhale it. It anchors itself into our solar plexus by a cord.
Yes.
We are never, ever taught that that spirit belongs in our body down below our feet. And you are the only one that can work with your spirit in order for that to happen. So that's like the techniques we teach 3.0, because you got to be at a place where, you know, and I mean, when I was going through that whole process, it's like I have to tell my spirit, I have to be strong with myself. Listen, pal, we're changing the program. I need you down below my feet, down. I can't do anything in life without you being fully present within me. And so you create this cooperative relationship with your inner being, as Abraham would say it, right? So when someone experiences anxiety, what is actually happening is that they are allowing that spirit of theirs, it looks like this golden orb of light, okay? So they're allowing this spirit that's connected to the solar plexus to drift so far out of the body that the body goes into panic mode. And it goes, because it's trying to get the spirit back in the form. And nobody realizes that that's what's going on. That's why grounding is so incredibly important. Now, how old is your child?
He's 12.
Okay, he could still do this. He likes to draw still. Yeah?
Yes.
Okay, great. This is where it's really good with kids. They love to draw trees, and they are the tree of life, right? And so you can explain the way to work with their spirit, that inner being, by using the metaphor of a tree, having them draw a tree, or using that orb as a balloon and working with this balloon, this sphere, to be down below their feet and down below their feet and breathing from within this sphere. It becomes their field of energy, which is a level of protection. When we talked earlier and we didn't follow up on it, what we meant about keeping your vibration high, and everybody's changing all these things outwardly to achieve that. We do it by simply transforming so much negative emotion that there's less and less and less of that to even, you know, try to, you know, we don't do it through separation. We do it through love, because you won't be able to be seen by an average human when your vibration's so high that their eyes can't see it.
Correct.
It's like a cloaking device. All right. So for anxiety, it's really fun for kids because they experience more of that sphere than adults do.
Yes,
Work
of
with him
course.
on that and have him, you know, and when he gets in that bubble of his being, you know, have him inhale that light down to the spine and have him feel it go, and it just radiate from all directions within, you know, from within the spine. And that's a real comforting thing to the kids, because there's instant calm in that. And beyond teaching him how to do that, you can encourage them to drop the bubble just like that, and just boom, it hits the ground, and then take a deep breath. Right? So you can work with your spirit in so many ways to stay in the form. That's what information is about, right? You're informed. That's where all your information is, by being present to what is. And so you can help them alleviate that anxiety. It's just know that the spirits, they're way ungrounded, and they need to learn how to manage their energy, because he's a lot like you.
Yes.
He's a mini you.
Yes. Well,
So,
even more so. I'm tonal, he's visual. So he can see spirit. I can hear them.
he'll be able to do all of that, because we brought ourselves, if you ever read my book, if you see how I was when I was born, and like, I didn't even know it was medium. I mean, now then they gave it a label, because of course that was a trend from 2013. All of a sudden, a million mediums were there. And I'm like, oh, is that what they call it? Well, you know, reading auras through the colors is one of my first gifts, and I never took classes for this. You know, it just arrives. And you know, then I can see inside someone's body, and I can tell them when there's something off based upon the energy and the colors that are revealed. And then they call it medical intuitive. I'm like, oh, they're calling it something else. So it's another way to, you know, split up the gift. But you can really, really help him and yourself by managing your energy in that way. Because you keep your mind quiet, you can't be grounded and you can't think at the same time.
Correct.
And, you know, he'll be walking around in the bubble of his inner being, just knowing that nothing can touch him from that place. And all information happens right there. So he'll know what's going on without having to think about what's happening. And that's a real good thing.
Thank you. Yeah, that's very informative. That's good.
Yeah, let's roll that around and see what opens up for you on that.
I like that.
Yep.
Thank you.
Sure.
Mark, thank you, Diane. Mark, did you have any questions or comments? You are muted.
More comments and questions than we have time to cover, although we have lots of time. I'm so interested in your story, and I missed the very beginning. You might have told some of the folks before we started the recording and before I got here. But you did mention that when you were 7, you were doing some things. You knew something different. You were connected to.
Yeah, part of when I was really small, I mean, I couldn't handle the intensity of the energy in my family. And so I was just like this. So I was sick all the time. That's how my body handled it. It couldn't handle it. It didn't know how to process the negativity. Well, when I hit 7 years old, I saw my first spirit that I remember seeing. So I know I was seeing negative energies or whatever's floating around way before that. And I was ridiculed and I was put down and, you know, shut down as like always. And it stuck in my heart. And I had really bad asthma after that for quite a while. You know, it kind of shut my heart, shut my breath. So I couldn't, my family could never figure out what was always wrong with Siobhan. There was always something wrong with me. And I used to chew my fingers way down to the quick because I emotionally, I just could not handle the intensity of my environment. And so, you know, there was a way I learned how to deal with that. My sister almost literally killed me. There was just all these different things I experienced that I was holding on to. And not knowing how to process any of that was really something. That's why I couldn't believe that you know, I could never see my life past 25 years old. I never thought I would live that long. And, you know, just God has a way of just going, well, that's what you think. And, you know, here we have this choice, right? Because I was telling him, look, this is a sum total, you know, of what life's all about, because I had this awakening in 88 at that time of the harmonic convergence. You know, my little brother had gotten into a car accident and died. 5 months later, my sister killed herself. We had so many things going on, and it just had hit this reflection thing. And I sought out answers for the first time. And I never knew that there was even really light. until I went to a meditation, and my very first person, Marcy Calhoun, I think she's still around, but she's got to be in her 90s now. She was a pretty well-known, renowned intuitive back in the day. And she had these classes that she taught. And as soon as I opened up the light in my mind, boy, that was it. That's when that door opened up and the hand came through and went, "Ooh, we've got her." Boom, and the door closed and my whole life went.
So do you think that, just about briefly as I can make it, I've never had any of that stuff. My mother had a dream when I was the second of 3 children being born, and my mother had a dream that an angel came.
Oh,
Actually, I'll just tell you the way an angel came and talked to her while I was in her tummy.
I believe it.
This angel told her that this is a special child. This is a special, different kind. This is a different, special child. And somehow I started vibrating that.
Somehow.
And I don't mean special, but I mean connected. Okay.
Yeah,
Not
you're special.
that I was connected. So I'm 72, and I don't really, things like fear and trauma and overcoming and those kinds of things, I don't have that experience to relate to people. I get involved in helping a lot of people with a lot of things, and health and nutrition and sports and mind and things. I do.
Yeah, you
but-
come from an angelic realm.
But from the very beginning, maybe even before I was born, somehow my mother vibrated this thing into me that says, "You're special enough," and I somehow interpreted that into, and she never, Abraham says what people have, they have children, and the first thing they want to do is disconnect them from their inner being and tell them to listen to me and don't listen to that. My mother never had that. My mother just knew that I was.
Do you know how special you are just in that?
Yes, and that I had a connection, and she never.
That's beautiful.
Disconnect me from that. So I mean, from very young, my whole life, I've never been like feared. I never thought that people wouldn't like me. There's just things in my life.
That is really a blessing, and it's wonderful that your energy is so high, coming in, and that you've just been an angel in so many people's lives and being uplifting and things. I didn't find Abraham I knew about, people would ask me, "Have you heard of Abraham?" And that just didn't resonate at all with me. And then 2013, Jerry showed up.
Yeah. So when you work with people, what I was thinking about is sometimes, and I don't go chasing after anybody, but when people come to me and we're in meetings and things like that with Karen and I, and over the years, there's been some people just think that, "Who the heck are you? You can't relate, you can't understand. I went through this and I went through that, and like most people have stuff from their childhood that may not be serving them well, or makes it more challenging and things." And I'm sometimes, so I don't get to play with those people. I just.
But you don't want, well, yeah, I feel like I was born as Lucifer's child, and I was here to redeem myself, and I have. And, if there were a Hell's Angel around, it'd probably be me. And it's part of my gift. It could have absolutely destroyed me too. But, when you look at what people call past lives, they really don't exist. Everybody calls about the eternal now, right? And we write about that. We elaborate more on that in terms of why the earth is so fucked up right now in the way it is because we create the aura of the planet. And when a physical body dies, because most people don't bother to transform the negative emotion, which will also subsequently transform the form, they just leave the soul here. right? So we can leave less of a carbon footprint if we transform our negative emotion. We don't leave anything behind, and that is what creates a past life. So what we do is recorded here energetically, and that is why the whole planet, I mean, I see it, Abraham, I love it. There is no inky mist. Oh yeah, there is. Okay, it's freaking everywhere. And if everybody could see their auras, they would see how much of a pig pen they look like mostly. You know, you can stuff it, but you can't hide it, and it comes up around you and in your interactions with others. But so what were we going to say about that? We just totally lost our thread, our stream there. But as far as working with people with all these things, you know, you can hit them right where you can deal with these people. But what we hear you say is you can't relate to it because it hasn't been your experience, but you relate with the point, which is the story doesn't matter. I can tell you that right now. It doesn't. It's not what happened, it's how you felt about what happened. So we cut people off at there and say, no, we don't want to hear it. Let's start here. It's not this, it's not that. So we start rewiring how they think to begin with, because we don't want it. Now, in my first book, I wanted the first 3 chapters to have titles and blank pages, because to me, the healing of my soul, this was just a story for teaching now. It's not about all this trauma. It's like, you know, my siblings still live that, right? So not really fun. And you know what's interesting about that? They don't want me around because I'm too happy and helpful. They can't relate to that at all. So I mean, the fact that you were born into that kind of a atmosphere within your mother's womb, and you know, some people don't come in with a whole lot of stuff, and God bless you. I mean, really, thank you, because yeah.
When Abe says you didn't come wanting a feathered nest or whatever that thing is, and I said, au contraire, I did.
Au contraire.
Yeah, we weren't rich, we didn't have a lot of stuff, but
when you're an angel, your nest.
I was never told to disconnect. I was always just reminded, not that I even needed reminding, but my mom trusted to know that I just was connected, and she encouraged that or let that happen. She didn't really do a whole lot. And the other thing that she taught me, and I think this is good for everybody, is that my mom was a person that could always just somehow communicate with other people's inner being.
Yep.
She was in anybody else's presence, they loved being there. They felt, you could just see people sit down next to my mom or stand in a shopping wherever, anywhere, and you could see them become brighter.
A lighthouse.
Because she saw their inner being.
Yeah.
She had her inner being communicating with their inner being. And when you can see somebody's inner being and communicate that way, their inner being gets it, because it's like, the way I like to envision it is, when I am conscious of doing that, it's like I'm saying things and their inner being is getting it, and their inner being is saying to them, yeah, what he said. You know, like, yeah, listen to it, and
I like that.
And it feels good. And you can tell when you're communicating with somebody's inner being, and so that
where words aren't necessary.
Yeah, and that stuff, whatever the stuff is that they have, is not there. It's there's no their history, their crap, their whatever it is, their art, whatever that is their resistances and things like that don't get in the way of that communication, as long as as long as you can get them in a vibration where they're in a little bit more alignment with their inner being, and then they can. This is a fun way of communicating, and it's just my picture. How I figure it is, me and my inner being are one. Me and my inner being is not a strange concept. It's not something I have to go struggle with. It's been,
exactly.
So, and I can see the other person's, that whether they are aware of that or not. But I really have fun communicating with people's, somehow through that, the inner being to their inner being to them, and see how that goes. And I'm not shy. I make people laugh. I'm very light, and I throw around a lot of little compliments, and I have fun with life. I really, really, really love just being in an elevator and making everybody in the elevator laugh, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's great. I mean,
But,
the world
uh,
needs a lot more of that, for sure. And we were just here to go through our stuff so we could, I have asked myself, like, why would I have to go through it? And I don't mean my childhood. I mean, if you ever read the book, to see the reflections that I got of the ominous type all around me through, other people and how I dealt with that. I would ask, like, why did I have to go experience these things? And what was really great about it is that I never thought about any of it.
mhm.
So it didn't affect me the way it would have been if somebody would have thought about that and judged it or anything like that. So I was just like, wow, I mean, everything. And I was around some pretty interesting people in my younger days. And it was so I could get to know that consciousness.
Yeah.
So well. And I even write it in my book. I felt so guilty. I feel, for knowing that consciousness. It's like I helped write that book at some point. And now I'm here to help undo everything that I did, before. I'm here to kind of, and so it's all right. It's good. I'm
And
okay.
you left home when you were 14, and I left home when I was 16. But I'm still envisioning that when you were 7 and when you were 14, and you were connected. You were
Yes.
connected to your inner being. You had a
Without even knowing
power.
it.
What's that?
Without even knowing it. I mean,
Yeah, I didn't either.
but I made the conscious decision, like in my young childhood, I got tired of being the victim. I got freaking tired of it. And
Yeah.
I stood in the field across the street and I took my right hand and I armored myself with the words to the song, I'm a rock, I'm an island. You remember that with Simon and
Oh, yeah.
Garfunkel?
Yeah.
Because a rock feels no pain and an island never
Mhm.
cries. And I was just like, I am so freaking done.
I am a rock.
That's
I
right.
am an island.
And then I just flipped the coin and became the other side of myself in order to protect myself. And that served me for a long time. And I learned a lot through that, so, but then taking it off again was when the harmonic convergence came, and it was time for me to let go of that identity and step into the light. And that's when my life really got interesting, because it's almost like the consciousness is like warring over ownership of, no, you need to be, we want you over here working for us. And it's like, no, we want you over here working for us. And, the contrast becomes really large as you try to make your way into another way of being. And it's just there to, it's just there to try to lure you back in and trick you over here. And it's like, oh, please. Don't you know I wrote this book?
You channel, yes?
Yes, I did. Octavar from the Ashtar Command.
Are you always channeling?
Pardon me?
Are you always connected to?
Yes, I don't turn this on or
Always?
off. I don't channel like the traditional channels. I don't have to stop and get adjusted. I am that I am because I reclaim that part of myself and I bring it forth from within me. It is a consciousness I am becoming rather than something I have to constantly bring in and out. And, there's nothing wrong with what people choose, but it's not really fitting the model of today. It's not fitting the consciousness that we're here to become.
Yeah.
And
Diane, does that mean something to you? I'm just guessing.
No, that makes complete sense. And I've embodied very much similar to Thich Nhat Hanh, where he talks about active meditation, which is just being alive and doing your day and doing your meditation during your day and being mindful of all of it. So there's no separation between sitting and meditating or taking care of a baby or going to work.
okay, tell me, what's the one thing that happens that keeps you in that state? That state is absolutely achievable.
I would just say the constant letting go and the awareness. So as things come up, it's just being. It's just saying, oh, this is coming up now. I'm gonna just let it be. And oh, this is coming up now. I'm just gonna let it be.
It's not even identifying that. It's just not. It's not being disconnected. It's being present without it's thoughtlessness.
Without discernment, yeah.
When you're got okay. When we look at channeling in the modern day now today, what we help people do is to open up all their channels within themselves. So you're not having to go from one state to another. It's this constant state of being. And you can do that if you work with your inner being. You absolutely can do it. And it's really cool. I mean, it's like you're in the world, not of. And I love that saying. I love that saying.
It can be so cool.
Huh?
It can be so cool. Focus on joy, love, peace, clarity, and let that feeling flow over you. And you know, and you'll go to a certain thing of let's just leave it at that, okay? I could go into a big discussion on meditation and that.
Yeah.
You know, you could just be in effect, you're breathing in and out, joy, love, peace, clarity, and let it flow over you. We will leave it at that.
Siobhan, it just occurred to me that you haven't mentioned law of attraction, I don't think. And I just wondered where that fits into your thinking, if indeed it does fit into your thinking. It
Absolutely.
sounds like it definitely does, but I just wondered, could you comment on that a bit?
Okay, so law of attraction, that was just likened to itself as John. Perfect, right? Like Esther
Yes.
says, absolutely, it's true. And, you know, no matter how much we refine the soul, and this is just from my own experience, because everything's from my own experience, you know. So we go through the process of transforming negative emotion. So when it happens, you know, usually we're triggered by everything. We start to learn about what that's all about. And then we learn how to be diplomatic instead of authentic. Right. So we act one way, we say something nice to keep the peace, but underneath you can feel the, you know, what's bubbling in their emotional body. So, you know, this isn't authentic, right? This is diplomatic. So that's not whole. All right. So when you, okay, I've been single for 23 years. So I decide a couple of years ago that I'm ready for a relationship. So I sat like I'm going to do for the next 30 days because it's so powerful. We actually have a thing where we're doing it and we hold the groups and it's 30 days of continual support. It's a half-hour session, you know, ahead of the cycle and a half hour at the end. And anyway, it's really fun. So we're on this text right together. So every morning I give everyone a little transmission to uplift them. And then throughout the day, we're of course texting all these cool things back and forth about what we're manifesting in our realities for our jobs in 3-digit numbers, 4-digit numbers, things of that nature. So I sit down and I'm writing every day as if I'm in that relationship because you can absolutely change your whole environment doing that, your whole reality. So I did. So I manifest this man who I've never really gone out with quote unquote spiritual men. I tend to resonate to lawyers, which have been 2 of my 3 husbands. I mean, I had been married most of my life by the time I was 34 years old. Pretty much. I'm going, wow, you know, anyway, long story. But so and they were great reflections for my bulk of my early inner healing. So I wrote this guy out and he ended up being spiritual. He had been to India, I don't know, 19 times, you know, really well off, which I attract men that are powerful because I'm a powerful woman. So that's a big, you know, that's a given. But anyway, so it was like this thing they call love bombing. So sure, there is this part of this beautiful person, this beautiful soul of a man who is extremely sensitive and gifted, you know, like myself, but very covered up with other things. So I attracted the very highest of this man. And then I also attracted the stuff that's scraping at the bottom of the barrel. Both of my parents are in their 90s and they're both, you know, going leaving the planet soon. We're just doing what we can the last year or so of their life. And I'm between here in California and helping that to happen right now. But anyway, so this man reflected to me not only the highest of myself, but these residual things that was my extremely narcissistic mother, my violent father, and my schizophrenic sister. Because what it brought to me, no matter how much you do this work, if you're consciously evolving, you're going to get more. And when you do, it's how you respond to it and how you feel and what you're feeling in the moment. And there were things that I had felt in resonance, because everything in this freaking reality is based on resonance. So even angel cards that you pulled, you know, it's not a lottery draw, it's freaking resonance, you know, and you're like, it's seriously, and but anyhow, so he was a powerful reflection, and he was actually purposeful about the hurting. It was more than not subconscious. It was really what, you know, a very interesting little dance. So yes, I drew this man in not only to help me make a good decision for myself. I mean, he gave me $1 million over here, you know, if I stay with him and just go through everything he wanted to. So he was completely night and completely day. I lasted about 8 weeks and said, I don't think so. and made another choice. But yeah, so actually I drew him in on the highest notes of everything that I wanted in a man, but I need to tweak that, like clarify. So yeah, law of attraction is it. In terms of partners, you know, they give you your deepest reflections. And like if you have like Mark here, your husband, and Karen, you must have a similar background. You know, you both are very sweet people. You're both beautiful. You both look just so related in an energetic way that, you know, it's really a beautiful thing. And so not some of us, like I say, didn't come in with like that. And so, yeah, we absolutely bring it the highest and the lowest. And the tools that I have that I work with every day, you can't transform what's coming up fast enough. At least I can't. I have to be left alone. That's my thing. I have to be left alone. And when you have somebody that refuses to leave you alone, they will not leave you alone. Not even if I go to close my eyes for a minute. Was there a time where I wasn't being interrupted on purpose? I mean, all these kinds of little things that are just incredibly, you know, and I'm like, okay, great. So I got to, you know, pay attention to how I feel about that. And I was bringing up feelings from a very, very young age. So I got to go in and, you know, transform more of the stuff that was scraping from the bottom around mom and dad. And it's been really helpful, you know. And then I work with other energies that are helping me see and experience the gratitude for my parents and what they put upon me. You know, forgive them at deeper levels, right? Forgiveness should feel like a shift in consciousness, not just words you say because you're hoping it's going to happen. And I've only felt the forgiveness truly as a shift in consciousness, one a long time ago, when I got to this certain point in my own healing, and then some recently where you just have to make peace with that part of yourself, you know, whatever you're out of sorts with. So yeah, we're going to absolutely, you can write anything into reality that you want. And as Esther says, you know, Abraham says, you have to sustain that. Well, a lot of people sustain that at the expense of how they feel. I'm going to stay, and I've seen it more often than not in her chair, where a guy especially can be so successful with law of attraction and using the tools of Abraham, because you can be, I mean, wow. But then their personal life totally sucks because they haven't done the emotional work at all. It's like, well, I could manifest this and I could manifest the girl of my dreams, but I can't keep her because they haven't done their inner work where all their stuff comes up in relation to what it's like to be in a relationship with a woman. They can write everything else, but they can't sustain because there's always this other part that comes into play, and they're not ever taught how to deal with that. And entities really can't tell you how to deal with your emotional energy because they come from higher dimensions into form rather than from form into higher dimensions. And so that's what makes my work unique, is that I've come to higher dimensions from within myself, not by channeling it from somewhere else.
Gotcha.
Yeah, if you must know why I was under my breath giggling there, Karen does know that I have got a planning manifestation to move to Mexico and attract that other half, as we shall say. So whilst you were talking, Siobhan, I was just biting my tongue, giggling. I'll leave it at that.
Okay. Yeah, we can literally create anything. And I mean, after that experience, and it was hard to get out of emotionally for me. I feel everything so deeply that I just really can't ignore things. And you know, I've got to have just space to be able to process these things. Like there'll be times sometimes when I'll feel rage rip through me so profoundly that I have to, you know, not so much anymore. I can sit down and pretty much go nuclear and get it done in about 5 minutes. But there have been times where it lingers so badly that I would just keep myself away from everybody because I didn't want to get it on anybody. I just, you know, because this work is literally contained in your being. It's not this expression like everybody thinks it is. You know, if you're expressing anything out here, it's going out to become part of the problem. When you learn how to work internally, where all of that conflict begins and ends, then you're taking responsibility and you're not letting it go out to become part of the problem in the world. You know, the world is divided and you're either, you know, bringing love to help transform it, or you're part of the problem by spewing your story and speaking negative things and all that kind of stuff. And thoughts are huge these days. They're so fast.
I'm at such a good relationships. I just would like to share this with anybody that
Please.
uh, shortly after Karen and I started dating, and we were actually, yeah, together seriously. And she came to me one time and she said, "You know, Mark, you're not the most important my most important relationship." And I said, "Oh, wow. I thought this is like you know, we were just a couple." I thought it was just like us, but she's got somebody else. So she said, "Yeah, you're not the most important relationship." And she says, "No, my relationship with my inner being is first."
Yeah.
And, and, you know, and I remember the thoughts that just kind of consumed me with joy. It was like, whoa, wait a minute. That means I don't I'm not responsible for anything.
That's right.
Any down thing that happens in her feelings or anything, I'm not responsible for, because that's between her and her inner being. But at the same time, I get appreciation for everything. So
yeah.
you think they're just saying, if anybody wants to find a relationship and have somebody never leave you,
Oh my gosh.
responsible for anything that the negative feelings, but appreciate them or share with them and appreciate them for anything that feels good. And that's my life. That's been my life for 20 or whatever years it's been that we've been together. And it's a beautiful thing. And so she can be by herself. I can be my when I'm by myself, I'm not by myself. I'm playing tennis or in the gym. But
Yeah,
and
that's lovely. That's what makes a great relationship.
She's upstairs most of the time on her computer doing what she does, and you know, and then we have our time together. We go play, but it's the relationship is, and we both do that. We both know that we're responsible, and we don't hold the other person responsible for any negative moment. It's really amazing. That's to me what relationships
Reflections are powerful. And what's funny, and I always say this, is my first three husbands, you know, I was married when I was 18. And I was with him for 8 years, and then I took about a 3-year break, and then you know, my second husband. So I had a lot of learning to do. But I mean, I was married to lawyers, right? So we had, you know, he loves golf, not my thing. You know, I garden, whatever. I mean, we had these lives that were together, like you're saying, that are just, we understood. So this guy who was supposed to be spiritual, which was the first time I ever did that, was the one who would never let any of that happen.
Yeah.
Oh,
So it's like I was owning my stuff and needing to be a way to do it, but there was not, what he put out there and what was actually how he wanted it to be was completely different. So it was a bunch of this cloaking, that's why we say your heart is divided. Your heart energy is very much used with some people to manipulate others, to draw them in to get what they want. And once they get them where they're at, then they really don't know love. Love is skewed and it means something else, and they'll show you. So I think it's really important to bring that point up just for the times that they are, because there's a lot of talk about an antichrist and what that's going to look like, and everybody has their version, right? Well, anything that's kind of negative emotion is anti-love, which would be antichrist, right? But I mean, in terms of a specific person, would you really know it if you looked at it based upon how you were taught to judge what you see?
Exactly.
So people look at me, right, and they feel the energy of intensity and all this stuff, and they have their own preconceived notions about who I am. I fit the model of something that is darker than an angel of light with blue eyes and blonde hair. And so people have these preconceived notions about what things are based upon what they appear. And so this was a really good thing for me for many, many levels to be with this particular man who I just, it's incredibly sad, but there's nothing I can do for this person. I mean, you really have to want it. And the one thing that I had to ask myself years ago was, how bad do you want it? How bad do you want to be free? What are you willing to do it? I'm willing to do anything. So anything I have to, well, most people don't have that kind of courage. Courage is
I don't see a dark angel.
Huh?
I don't see a dark angel.
None of us do.
Thank you. You should see the Catholic priests react to me. You should see, I mean, I really ripple a lot of men's things. But, like everything else that's been put into piles, whether it be male or female or black and white, these are all things that have to be resolved and seen from the start.
I get you where human perspective puts you in those, what is the word we're looking for?
Wait.
Oh, in my Mark. We look at these human perspectives.
Yes.
Put people into their so-called, thank you, pigeonholes. And then when we look at the pigeonholes and see a different side, people are telling us, no, that person is pigeonholed here. You get where I'm coming from?
Yep.
By the way, I was married and divorced 3 times also.
Yeah.
Before Karen.
Oh, I love it. So there's hope for me.
oh,
Oh, yeah.
absolutely, girl.
And you know what? When I look back at it, now that I have the understanding of
That you do. Yeah.
of who I am now and how I understand relationships and how they could be, is I just didn't let them bother me at all. And the problem is, I had some unstable mental, whatever, females that it's just that I didn't go down. Just like when you hear Abe won't join you or your inner being won't join you, and that's why there's that why you feel bad is because your inner being won't join you down there. And that's just kind of like the way I feel when I look back at my relationships and my first 3 wives. They all expected me to go down wherever they were going, and I just wouldn't go there. I enjoyed it, but then when they started going down, and I didn't join them, that'll really make some people that are not mentally stable really upset more when you don't join them in their stuff and take the blame for their stuff. It was just like, okay, go do your thing, and I'll go play some ball or something.
Yeah,
So I think that's what happened. So it took somebody like Karen for me to know that she knows that she's responsible for her her feelings, and so am I. And man, that's powerful stuff.
2 adults in a relationship. Oh, gotta love it, right? Yeah.
Well, I gotta say, I've been single for 13 years. I isolated for 10, started slowly dipping into the dating pool about 3 years ago, but yeah, similar boat.
Well, you can join me over the ethers if you'd like, but you know, starting here in the next couple of days, in the next new moon, I'll be starting to write fast and furious, see what I can create now. Because you know, when you shift your vibrational set point, you know, it can shift dramatically enough, and you know, like what from I learned from this last guy. And my parents, you know, being in the state that they're in and on their way out and everything like that is really helping me to come full circle with all of it. So he was really like the precursor to that in a way. Like, you know, I have not felt a trembling fear inside of my body since I was a small kid.
Right. Yeah, I get that. Right.
Yeah, and I was just like shaken. I told my daughter, I go, man, there's something really going on here, and I don't feel safe for my physical well-being. And, you know, I'm really not afraid for pretty much anything. And it was just brought up this fear I had as a small child. And, yeah.
How would it feel if you, I will take it as straight gender, that somebody suddenly turned around to you and said, I'm not responsible for your happiness. You're responsible for your own happiness. Hey, let's just go somewhere and see where this happens. And yes, I am doing my best to grab what Abraham Hicks has said. You know, you can be with someone and it feels so right. But then in a moment, it feels so wrong. But your emotional state, where you are on the emotional scale, I am right for this part of my journey. Oh, that is very good.
Siobhan, I'm going to have to stop this recording because it's getting close to 2 hours, I think. And we can all stay here as long as we want, but it's just the size of the recording. If it gets too much bigger, then it's unwieldy to share. So what I'm going to do is, if we can do this, if you can share, summarize what you do, who you are, how you feel, how people can contact you, or, you know, whatever. And, you know, it can take up to 5 minutes or whatever you want.
Okay, well, I'll just dive right in then. Okay, well, thank you all for listening and being here. It's been wonderful to share with you. You know, I've interacted with you over Facebook for so long now, and this wonderful Abraham Fun group, which I love. It gives me a lift every day, and Karen's little jokes too, because I'll get my coffee in the morning, and the first thing I'll do is get on there and I'll look and I'll just start cracking up, and it's wonderful. I think of you every day, and I love you so much. So our piece of the puzzle that we've been gifted with is to help people make the consciousness that they are conscious, and how to work with the consciousness once they get there. So there's a process of steps. There's many different tools we have as we evolve. So our tools do evolve. You can reach me by email at sovereignmastery@gmail.com. My website is myname.com. So Siobhan Nicolaou, S as in Sam, I-O, B as in boy, H-A-N, NICOLAOU.com. We have Siobhan Nicolaou, The Sword of Truth Facebook page. So like and follow, and you can keep up on events we have and different sayings and things like that. But if you're interested in working with us, we work with a myriad of tools to help you open up to more of who you are and work your path from the inside out.
Hmm.
And become the love that you know you are, but have your experience be the love that you are.
Thank you very much. Such a great summary.
Yeah. Awesome, amazing. Now, don't anybody go away. And you people that are watching the recording, sorry, you're gonna miss if we continue on. But anyway, thank you so much for taking your time and sharing who you are and what you do.
Oh yeah, so fun.
Personally, I'll be mulling this over in my beingness for a few days,
Good.
especially in the morning. That's my time, and I get up in the morning and do my stuff, inner work in the morning. So thank you so much for that. And I'll stop the recording now.